This episode contains some coarse language. Listener discretion is advised.
Coming up this week in work.
You've probably heard someone describe Gen Z as entitled, fragile or needy, but have you heard them be described as a perfectionist? Well, a new study suggests this problematic trait is on the rise and toxic work environments might be responsible. Surely not, Al. We will dive into the details very soon.
Also this week, now think about this, your team's already hooked on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts and short form video content. So does that mean that short videos are the best way to teach them something new? Here's the idea that we basically, instead of doing boring L&D presentations, we just pop it on TikTok. Someone's actually studied this and I've got the results.
And in truth or lie, can you bullshit a bullshitter? You see now the discretion advised.
Yes.
So the idea is, if you're skilled in bending the truth yourself, you're immune to it when someone tries it on you. But is it true? Are practice bullshitters harder to fool? Or does thinking you're good at it just make you an easier target? I've read the research and I've got a verdict.
And in the workplace surgery, one listener asks, how do you keep people motivated when work goes quiet? The business struggles with quiet patches. And this owner wants to know how to keep people motivated and engaged when there genuinely isn't enough work to go around.
This is Truth, Lies and Work, the award-winning podcast where behavioural science meets workplace culture, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals.
My name is Al, I'm a business owner, and I'm here to ask the questions you might be afraid to.
And my name is Leanne, I'm a chartered occupational psychologist, and I'm here to answer them. We are the co-founders of people and culture consultancy Oblong, and together we'll help you simplify the science of work and build amazing workplace cultures.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back, Lee. Sad news.
Sad news? Why? What happened?
Well, it's the end of your football.
Yeah. I think it ended in the best possible way, though.
Yes.
We had a few teams going into it, didn't we? Spain was one of them because we lived there for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. And I feel that football won last night.
Yes, it did.
You know?
Yeah.
I think everyone was rooting for Argentina to lose because they've just been ugly tactics. And I know it's all part of the game, but
well, is it?
Surely, it's not, they're not doing anything that, can be punished to the point that they can't do it, but it's not good sportsmanship, is it? It's not the beautiful game that we want to see. Mm-hmm.
So some of you are going to be very pleased because we'll be no longer talking about football until September when the Premiership starts. But no, it's if you have been pushing through with our football chat, then I'm with you because I'm not really into football, but I do enjoy the World Cup because it feels like a great place or a great way to get everyone together. And generally speaking, like the Norway-England match, they lost very graciously, and most teams are kind of like, And also, am I right in thinking that Messi was about to be, what's that award when you get the most number of goals in there?
The Golden Boot.
Yeah, and I think he didn't because he didn't score last night. So it was Mbappe, I think, who.
Oh, is it?
I think so. I'll, if only we had like one of those people on.
There's a way to find.
Yeah, we need like that Joe Rogan guy who goes and just checks it. Pull it up, whatever his name is. Pull it up, Liam. Pull it up. Anyway, so.
Yeah, you're right, Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, so he was, so Messi's had a bit of a nightmare. Do you know what? I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it will take away from his incredible career. No. I think he'll be just fine. I don't think, because you didn't watch much of the match last night, did you? But did you see any of the halftime show?
What, the fight? No.
What fight?
The fight at the end.
What fight?
Did you not see when the final whistle went? There was proper punches thrown and everything between Spain and Argentina.
I fell asleep after they scored in extra time.
Yeah, no, you missed probably the best bit of the match. But what was the halftime bit?
So in like the Super Bowl and stuff, they'll get on like Jennifer Lopez and Kendrick Lamar, and they'll have a bit of a turn at halftime.
Oh no!
Well, they did it, and it was interesting. I felt it was unnecessary watching it, but I thought maybe I'm just being a bit grumpy. And it wasn't my favourite people like Madonna, but I'm pretty sure it's all pre-recorded and it's just popped her head out at the end. Shakira was really good, actually. Justin Bieber, not a big fan. Although they did have Ted Lasso in it doing a little bit.
Hey.
He kind of ushered on Justin Bieber. And then BTS, the Korean boy band. And then it finished with Shakira and some other dude that I don't know. But it was all a bit messy. It was all a bit unnecessary. And it was all very American. Mm-hmm. And it's already been kind of Americanized, if that's the word. Americanized?
Yeah. With
like the quarters and stuff. But it went back to the BBC coverage. The BBC won the coverage from what I've been reading. And Wayne Rooney just went, it was crap. Like, I like some of the artists on there, but let's be honest, it was crap. And everyone was like, yeah, so second half.
Yeah, so that's Wayne going to be struggling to get out of the country back home, isn't he? I'm guessing. Where are they in? Where the commentators in?
In New Jersey. Yeah. Which is also confusing. I had to ask Jake about this because they kept saying here in New York, New Jersey Stadium. And I was like, well, which one is it? Because I'm pretty sure they're different states.
Why?
Yeah.
We need Jake on this. Good news, Jake is coming back. We've also got, so August. We've got some different content happening in August. Much more relaxed because let's be honest, who wants to think about work in August? We don't.
Not me.
So we've got some more. I think every single week on a Tuesday we've got a guest hosting.
Yeah.
And every single Thursday is a much lighter interview or workshop or just discussion. So don't worry. So don't turn off in August. It's going to be really.
We're
good.
not doing This Week in Work though, are we? We're doing like different things with our guests.
So we're not calling it This Week in Work.
No.
We should have. I missed this in the production meeting things. I was asleep at the back. Anyway, Lee, anything else to add before we go to your favourite time of the week?
Only to mention that because it just seems like a topical thing. We've got a new Prime Minister today. That's nice, isn't it? I believe that's our 5th in 4 years.
Oh, God.
Or 4th in 5 years. I know. Another one, Andy Burnham. We'll see how that turns out. I'm sure it'll give us things to talk about. And before we go to the news roundup, I just want to say thank you to all the lovely listeners who are leaving us reviews and comments. We love to see it. We do reply.
This is on Spotify.
On Spotify and on Apple as well. We've had a few reviews. So thank you very, 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 very much. One of them, Al, I hadn't brought it to your attention yet because I wondered how you'd feel about it. So this is somebody from the UK. Their username is DCN Alice.
Mm-hmm.
And the review goes, helpful and insightful. I enjoy this podcast and it's full of good tips and resources and ideas. But I hate the constant background music. So that's why it's a 4.
Oh.
I know.
Oh, so it's been the news roundup.
Yeah, maybe we don't cue that jingle. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I'll cue it today.
Or maybe turn it down. I don't know.
Oh, I tell you what. Yeah, let's not do it today.
And let's not do it.
And if you're listening, please just let us know. Either comment on Spotify or you can find us on LinkedIn or you can send us an email, hello@truthliesandwork.com. Let us know whether you prefer it with the music or without.
Keep the jingle, drop the jingle.
Yes, this is Jinglegate.
Keep or drop.
Keep or drop. Right, okay, so let's not cue the jingle.
Not cue the jingle, Lee, that's just for you, Alice.
Yes, thank you, Alice. Alice? Who the... Oh, never mind, that's a different song. Okay, Lee, what have you seen?
Are we actually in a hiring crisis?
Oh, sorry, a glass of water there. You want some answers? You want me to answer that, or is it just a rhetorical?
Yeah.
Are we in a hiring crisis? Yeah. Are we not? I don't know. You're the fucking expert here. I don't know. Don't ask me stuff. Let me drink my water in peace. Carry on.
So I just feel like we're always talking about people or companies laying lots of people off. AI taking over people's jobs, lots of people unemployed. But according to new research, the hiring market has become much tougher than many organisations realise. So this came from Francesca Cassidy in Fortune Europe. And the article opens with new data from a McKinsey HR Monitor survey, which found that overall hiring success across Europe is just 46%. They measure hiring success by combining offer acceptance with whether the new hires actually stay beyond their probation period. And according to the article, business are now fighting the hiring battle in several different ways. So first of all, they're competing for experienced workers, but they're also competing with things like retirement, as lots of older employees are kind of leaving the workforce faster than the younger people are replacing them. And at the same time, of course, AI is changing the shape of entry-level work. So if we are automating those more routine tasks, organizations aren't offering the jobs to the younger kids, which means skilled candidates don't even start to be developed in kind of the lower rings of an organization. And the article also argues that companies are spending enormous amounts of time, money and effort trying to recruit skills from outside the organization, often with disappointing results. So it asked whether businesses need to think differently and highlighted one company, Spotify. So yes, Spotify, as you remember, I think we actually covered it on the show in 2023, laid off about 17% of its workforce, but the company has since been investing heavily in internal mobility, so basically encouraging employees to move between teams, develop new skills and build careers inside the organisation rather than looking externally for talent. And what they're saying is that it's not that hiring new people in doesn't matter, but if the labour market is getting increasingly difficult, growing the talent you already have may be a more sustainable strategy. Thoughts?
See, now it's funny because I'm sure we have covered stuff where people saying there's no jobs out there. I'm sure we've covered stuff saying that AI is taking all the jobs, so therefore there literally are no jobs to be had. And now what we're saying is that actually there are plenty of jobs, but 50% of them they fill them and then the person disappears again. So I'm struggling to understand how all these things can be true.
I think what it's highlighting here is that recruitment processes are failing.
Right.
Because if you're running an expensive, time-intensive recruitment process and your success rate is only 50%, as a business owner, I'd be looking to, whether it be HR or my hiring managers or the external recruiter I'm using, and going, that isn't acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
That is not, it's basically chance. We just pluck somebody out of the pile and start them and hope it goes well. So I just feel that it's highlighting that recruitment is failing and that needs to be fixed. And it's a really easy thing to fix. And it really frustrates me that organisations aren't fixing it. It's because it isn't sexy and it isn't interesting. Why should it be? You're just trying to find good people in your business. Mm-hmm. And the second thing I think is that rather than always looking to external hires, which of course is important, investing in recognition and career development, people who are already in your business, whether that means moving it into different roles or different departments or doing different things. I think we just have this very narrow view of what it is to develop employees, and that's basically put them on a management track, whereas it could be doing lots of other different things. It could be retraining somebody who's worked in a technical role to a more of a sales-based role. It could be lots of different things. So I think it's really highlighting that the companies that are getting it right have got a really sharp recruitment process that is going to be a lot more successful than a 50-50 chance. And they're taking the time to develop their own internal talent. So actually, they're probably overall cost and frequency of hiring is lower anyway.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, you just explained it to me. So what we're saying is that this stat here has got really nothing to do with the number of jobs available. It's got to do with the quality of the selection process. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're listening to this and you're going, yeah, do you know what? I'm hovering about 50%. Then you need to speak to Leanne because Leanne has got we need to package this up into some kind of product or service, something, because Leanne has got the answer to this. She says it like once every 3 episodes. She'll say exactly how you do it. And I'm not going to tell you because you should have listened the last time. You should have implemented it. So you've got Leanne's email in the show notes. Drop her an email. She'll sit there for half an hour with you and it depends how many people actually email you. But if you've got enough time, I'm sure she'll sit there and tell you how it works. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Leanne. So here's an idea that sounds brilliant on paper. A lot of people we talk to say that L&D is boring, and it often is. It's PowerPoint, it's cheesy games. It's not the best experience, but you know what's not boring? TikTok and Instagram, because that's where people are actually already on it. So why not meet them there?
Ticking and gramming now.
Ticking and gramming.
Ticking, talking and gramming.
Is that what it is? And Ewing, the YouTubing. We call them. We call it TickTube.
TickTube, because it's basically everything that's on TikTok, but it's put on YouTube for the old people.
Yeah, for us. So this is the idea. Compliance training, for example, in bite-sized reels.
Or if it was like a difficult management conversation, it might be like that.
Yes, so you can act it out. TikTok style.
Yeah. Like
so
it.
It sounds like this is going to be a great idea, but actually, we found out, according to this study, it's one of the worst ways to learn something and actually remember it. So researchers in China, they ran a proper experiment. Now, they took a 10-minute travel documentary and they did one group watch the entire documentary start to finish. Mm-hmm. One group watched sort of TikTok-style little chop-down bits of it. Mm-hmm. Short video group did much worse. They were basically asked to do this quiz straight afterwards and couldn't remember nearly as much as people watched the long form. What's worse is when they said, and they didn't tell anyone about the quiz the first time, second group, they said, right, there will be a quiz on this, so remember as much as you can. They still did much, much worse. And then they tried the same quiz the next day to see if that made any difference. Again, the people who watched the entire documentary, they retained far more. They did a brain scan as well, and this is the interesting part, I think, for anyone who manages people. The people who watched the continuous video, their brains actually synced up with each part of the region tied to attention and memory building. So they were building this entire memory map. But with a chopped up version, that synced activity just didn't exist. Instead, these people's brains were just firing in the bits that reacted to sudden change. Basically like, oh, new thing, over and over again. So people felt engaged, they weren't bored, but the front and back of the brain stopped talking to each other properly and nothing get filed away long term.
Mm-hmm.
Does all that make sense?
It does.
So, thoughts?
I mean, it's not that surprising because given what we know about the impact that this short form content is having on memory and attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's those dopamine hits, isn't it? They're really addictive, but don't really kind of activate much in a way that is useful or helpful to anybody.
Yeah, like brain chewing gum.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's too much of a surprise. I think what could be interesting potentially is if you kind of considered whether kind of the short form could be used almost as like revision cards. So say you've gone on like a course or something like a management course, and then part of kind of the in-between sessions before your next module or kind of the wraparound after continuous learning was going over the same principles that you've done in long form in kind of short form videos. I'd be interested to see the research on that to see if it facilitated memory and retention. I don't know the answer, but I wonder whether it could.
So anyway, Lee, what else do you see, my love?
I too saw a study this week, Al, from the British Psychological Society's Research Digest. It was actually published in Psychological Bulletin.
Oh, yeah.
If you're interested. And it's basically asking, are young people becoming more perfectionist and is work partly to blame? Gen Z, I feel like we haven't talked about them recently. I was starting to miss our Gen Z friends. We know that they're described as entitled or fragile or you know, challenging in the workplace in terms of being a bit needy.
Just to be clear, we don't describe them
No,
that.
people do. We love Gen Z. We think Gen Z are freaking awesome.
We do.
This research, though, does paint a different picture. So it looked at data from 307 separate studies.
Meta-analyses.
Thank you very much. Involving more than 82,000 university students in the UK, US and Canada, collected over a 35-year period between 1989 and 2024.
Longitudinal study.
Beautiful.
Yes, I'm nailing
so
this
what
like
does
a
this tell us
carpenter on
about? What does
payday.
this kind of, what do we know then if we're looking at a longitudinal meta-analysis study? What What comfort can we take from that as social scientists?
We can take from it because see, you've asked me difficult questions. I think because they're meta-analyses, then it's not just one sample survey set of data. It's lots and lots of data.
Yep.
And because it's longitudinal, we can actually see changes over time. Is that right?
Yes, it does. Al, come on.
Thank you.
Thinking like a psychologist.
Genuinely grinning now from ear to ear.
We can be fairly confident in this data and the conclusions it's coming to because, like you say, massive sample, long period of time, tracking behaviour, in this case personality traits, to see what shifts, and it gives us an idea.
Statistical relevance or something, SSR.
It's reliability and validity, yeah, that we're looking at. Various different, I won't get into that because there's lots of different forms of reliability and validity, but just know they're strong.
I overreached there a little. Carry on.
So the researchers found that perfectionism has continued to rise since 1989, and it has continued to rise from the last kind of snapshot they did of their findings in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they think they're looking at is not necessarily that young people are just setting themselves higher standards, but the biggest increases are coming from socially prescribed perfectionism. So that's the belief that other people expect you to be perfect, expect one to be perfect, that mistakes will be judged harshly, and that your worth depends on meeting impossibly high expectations.
Oh,
as a millennial, I feel so seen right now. The researchers found particularly sharp increases in fear of failure, indecisiveness, and fear of negative judgment, especially since the early 2000s. And in fact, concern about making mistakes increased more than any other perfection-related trait. That included 3 beliefs becoming much more common. 1, reacting badly to mistakes. 2, seeing mistakes as failure. And 3, believing other people judge you negatively when you get something wrong. So the authors say that these trends mirror the rise we've seen in anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicidal thoughts that we have seen amongst young people over the same time period. So why is this happening? Well, interestingly, I thought the researchers don't think social media started the problem.
Okay.
They believe that the rise in perfectionism actually began before smartphones and social media became more widespread. And instead, they're putting it down to economic and cultural changes. So as economic growth slowed and opportunities became more rare, young people appeared to respond by striving harder. Then as inequality increased, so did worries about making mistakes and what other people might think. So the researchers suggest that if social media does play a role, it's probably amplifying pressures that already existed rather than creating them. And their conclusion is that tackling the youth mental health crisis can't just focus on individuals. It also means looking at the economic and cultural conditions that are encouraging perfectionism in the first place, including our workplaces. But I think the thing that kind of got me over the past, if you think about what's this over, maybe like 30 odd years, isn't it? 40 odd years. I would be interested to see or to kind of track this data along with leadership and management competence. Unless that I think that, I don't think we're investing in management and L&D as much as maybe we did 20, 30 years ago. But also that it's a lot more complex, the world of work that managers and leaders are dealing with. So actually they need even more training. So I think it's probably more that we've not increased the amount of training and support we give to our leaders and managers and just expect them to deal with a much more complex world of work with AI and hybrid and the internet and all that kind of stuff. But I would be interested to kind of see that tracked in terms of that against the failure to make mistakes. Because what that is talking about is a lack of psychological safety in the workplace, isn't it? So even if you think about our young people, even if you had a world of social media that is constant judgment, constant finger pointing for failing, if you're in a work environment where the narrative changes and goes, no, we want you to fail. That's how we learn. That's how we innovate. That's how we create. That's how we figure out new and exciting things. Failure is a sign of success. I wonder how much would be able to kind of counteract the narrative that's coming from social media. So I just feel that there is an element of responsibility we need to take as older people in the workplace for our younger people if they are feeling a lot of anxiety around making mistakes, is teaching them how to make mistakes safely, teaching them how to recover from mistakes in a way that we're learning things, or how to prevent these mistakes from happening through different safeguards and peer and leader support. I just think if that's the main finding that's coming out, there's a lot we could be doing as leaders and business owners to just make that whole situation better.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. You learn more from the money you lose than the money you make. And if you aren't making mistakes, you're not making enough decisions. So yeah, there we go. Some wisdom from Al, who stole from someone else. Okay, if you have your own, so we want to hear from you twofold, two reasons. One, did you prefer it without the music on the background?
Personally, I didn't notice a difference. It's funny because Al puts it in post, so we're not listening to music now.
And two, if you have your own story that you'd like us to talk about, I know someone sent us something recently. I think, was it Christian sent us something? We'll definitely include that. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then after that, we're going to come back. And Leanne is going to dispel a myth for us in our Truth or Lie segment. So we'll see you in a second. Welcome back. Yes, you're right. It's Truth or Lie. It's that time of the week where we take a popular workplace idea and ask if the research actually backs it up. This week's saying is one you've definitely heard. You can't bullshit a bullshitter. Also, if you're Scouse, you can't kid a kidder. And if you are from Manchester, you can't blag a blagger. Those are the...
that probably would have been a more kind of friendly
radio
version,
friendly.
wouldn't it?
So,
in my defence, one of the studies was actually called You can't bullshit a bullshitter.
You can't shit a shitter.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I totally agree. I totally get it. So do you want to set this up, or shall I just give you...
No, please, carry on.
Okay, so I think this is the basic idea that if you are skilled at, should we say, bending the truth yourself, then you're immune to it when someone tries it on you. Supposedly, frequent liars and exaggerators develop a built-in radar for spotting when someone else is doing the same thing. So is that actually true? Are practiced bullshitters harder to fool, or does thinking you're good at it just make you an easier target? Lee, over to you.
There is some evidence that suggests this is true.
Mm-hmm.
You can't bullshit a bullshitter. So the first study, Christian Blotner and Sebastian Bergold, fabulous names. I believe they're Scandinavian. Maybe German, I don't know. They ran a study in 2023 with 525 people, mostly university students. This tends to be the case with a lot of psychology research.
A lot of time on their hands, haven't they, the students?
Indeed. And what they basically said first is let's define bullshitting, because it's not necessarily just one behaviour. So they split it into two different types. Persuasive bullshitting, so that's kind of talking the big game, the inflative, very impressive sounding language to look competent with no real concern about whether it's true or not. I don't know, to pluck an example out of my head, Donald Trump. The second is evasive bullshitting. So that's different. That's giving kind of vague, non-committal answers to dodge a question or avoid causing harm without technically lying. Think Keir Starmer.
Okay, fair.
Yeah?
Yes. And also
maybe that's unfair to Keir, I don't know. But the last few, I mean, there's a few scandals, weren't there, you just seem to kind of knock away and not really deal with. So they also then split the personality trait behind bullshitting into two different things. And that trait is Machiavellianism.
Right.
One of my favourite words to say because it took me a little while to learn it.
You say it so beautifully.
Thank you. So Machiavellianism is basically being manipulative, cynical. It's a cynical way of dealing with people. And they split that into two types as well. So a Machiavellian approach, where you're actively working an angle to gain something, or Machiavellian avoidance, that's more defensive, guarded, distrustful style, and really just to kind of protect yourself to not get embarrassed.
Yeah.
So to test how these traits and behaviours connected, they use a statistical method called structural equation modelling, which is basically when research can look at several traits at once and see how they relate while accounting for the variables. It's almost like a little waterfall kind of effect of statistics to kind of see what's shaking and what's connected and what's not, and which one is the most important. So the results showed a very clear split. People high in Machiavellian approach were likely to bullshit persuasively.
Right.
So their Machiavellian approach to the people that are trying to gain something, bullshit persuasively is the Donald Trumps of the world.
Right.
So somebody in a meeting may be very confidently throwing around buzzwords about a project that's actually behind scheduled, but just to sound like they're kind of still on top of it.
Got it.
People high in Machiavellian avoidance were more likely to bullshit evasively. So if somebody was asked directly if they missed a deadline, instead of giving a straight answer, they might say something like, oh, it's been a complicated week, there's lots of moving parts. Technically, it's not a lie, but it's not really an answer either.
Got it.
But here's the part that matters for us. That same guarded, avoidance-driven group were better at spotting bullshit.
Oh.
Yes. So the researchers tested this by mixing meaningless, pseudo-profound statements in with genuinely insightful ones and seeing who could tell the difference. Crafty. And the defensive bullshitters did better, and that link held up even when accounting for other factors.
Mm-hmm.
The study also measured raw reasoning ability using a standard cognitive test. All that really means is that it's a test similar to an IQ test that measures how well someone can kind of think through problems in real time. That kind of the highest score on a standard cognitive test was the strongest predictor of spotting bullshit overall, and stronger than any personality trait.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of being naturally sharp mattered more than being a bullshitter yourself. So there is some evidence to suggest that guarded, defensive bullshitters, not the flashy, persuasive kind, do seem harder to fool, and basically their own skepticism is working as a shield against other people's bullshit.
Got you. So someone who likes to make up stories, but embellish stories, then if they're talking to someone else who's got the same trait, they aren't necessarily good at detecting whether they're. But the other way around, there's someone who's a bit evasive will notice if someone doesn't answer the question because they go, oh, I do that too.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it. So that's the argument 4. Sounds pretty strong to me.
Yeah, it is. There is definitely some evidence there that you can't bullshit a bullshitter. So if we look at the against, the against argument would suggest that you can bullshit a bullshitter.
Yeah.
So the first study I want to share with you was led by a psychologist called Shane Luttrell. I have talked about Shane's work on the show before. It was actually Shane that sent me this study that then made me think, this could be a good truth or lie.
Well done, Shane.
Well done, Shane. So Shane and some of his colleagues ran 3 separate studies in 2021 with 826 people in total, and they were recruited online. They wanted to settle a very specific question, which is exactly what we're looking at. Are people who bullshit often better at spotting bullshit or worse? So the first 2 studies measured how often people bullshit using a self-report scale, then tested them against 3 kinds of bullshit. The first was pseudo-profound statements that we've heard about before. The second was fake scientific claims written in very convincing scientific language. And the third was fake news headlines. So across all 3, people who scored highly on persuasive bullshitting, so that's the confident, impressive sounding kind, were more likely to rate these fake statements as true or meaningful. And this wasn't explained away by other factors. The researchers also measured general intelligence. So as we said before, a person's tendency to think things through carefully rather than go on their gut, and they call this cognitive reflection. And they also looked at how confident someone was. And even accounting for all of these things, the link between persuasive bullshitting and falling for bullshit held up.
Interesting.
A third study they did then dug into the mechanism. So participants were shown the same set of pseudo-profound statements split into 2 groups with different instructions. So one group was asked to rate how deep the statement sounded, and the other was asked to rate how true the statement sounded. And people who scored low on persuasive bullshitting answered differently depending on which question they were asked. So the people who scored low on persuasive bullshitting, they could tell the difference between something sounding clever and something being true, whereas people who scored high on persuasive bullshitting rated the statements as the same. Yeah, so the researchers basically took this as evidence of a blind spot. So for frequent bullshitters, sounding impressive and being true had essentially merged into the same thing. And if you think about that alone, and the political world we've seen unravel in the past 2-3 years, it's people that can't tell the difference between sounding impressive and being true.
Interesting. Well, you have covered these people.
Indeed. There was a related finding as well from a different angle. So a researcher called John Petruccelli ran 2 different experiments also in 2021 on bullshit as a persuasion tool. And he found that when an argument was weak, dressing it up as confident in a bullshit style language made it much more persuasive than presenting it honestly. But it did backfire when an argument was strong. So people found the honest, evidence-based version more convincing. And the second experiment looked into why. So when arguments were framed as bullshit, people stopped weighting the actual content and were swayed by surface things like how attractive the speaker looked in a photo. Whereas with the evidence-based framing, that didn't have an effect at all. So basically, bullshit works by pulling people away from careful thinking, which is part of the reason why even sharp people can fall for it at times. And then one final study I want to share with you, which I thought was interesting. This was in 2018 and looked at 125 people and measured narcissism using a very well-established questionnaire called the Narcissistic Personality Inventory.
The NPI.
An NPI. Participants also rated their own ability to tell lies, detect lies, and tell convincing truths. The people who scored higher on narcissism constantly rated themselves as better at all 3, but the study only measured self-belief, not actual skill. So nobody tested whether they could really detect a lie. It just kind of shows confidence rather than competence. But I think the key thing here is that narcissists tend to think they're really good bullshitters.
Mm-hmm.
So all the research is suggesting that bullshit works by switching off that more careful thinking, and the people most sure they can't be fooled are often the ones that are worse spotting it. So whether that's persuasive bullshitters or people who are high in narcissism.
Interesting. And there is a check for £5 British for the person who counts up how many times Leanne said the word bullshit. I'd imagine it'll be a record.
Before we move on, I couldn't help but reflect on what this could mean for business owners, because I know sometimes our truth and lies are very kind of in the workplace and others are less so. But I think this one is very much in the workplace. In kind of advice for leaders is don't mistake confidence for quality. If you're listening to a presentation, it's very polished and jargon heavy, it could be trying to hide a weak idea. If somebody is rating their own work performance, ask them to back it up. Confidence and competence are not the same thing. And if you're just a moment of self-reflection, if you're the one who's sure you can't be fooled, maybe reflect on that. Because it is often, as we heard, the surest people who fall for the bullshit.
Interesting. So if you say, I can't be fooled, no one fools me, it's more likely that you are a persuasive bullshitter yourself.
The science, I would suggest so.
Oh, well, that's yeah. So we've lost those people now. They've gone, right, I'm not listening to this bullshit anymore. Anything else to add before? I'm guessing the links are in the show notes as always, Lee?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. You say sure, he's just going to throw the document into Claude, aren't you, and say, do me some show notes. We should mention that this week's episode was inspired by a conversation with Dr. Shane Littrell, one of the researchers behind the study we covered. If you want to go deeper on the psychology of bullshit, I think you should. He writes about it regularly on his Substack, which has got the best name ever, Bullshitology. We're going to pop the link in the show notes. Okay, on to my favourite time of the week is the world-famous weekly workplace surgery where I put questions to Leanne. Okay, so I've got 3 questions here that have been sent in, and I will put them to Leanne. As I've just said that, a bit of tautological there, Leanne. I didn't need to. Just in case you're wondering why, if particularly me, slightly off today. The aircon in our studio seems to have broken on a day when it's like 38 degrees outside and humidity is high and struggling a bit here. Really struggling. So I might do the last question in my pants. Let's find out. So question number 1, am I being naive putting in a free gym? So this person says, hi, Alan Leanne. Oh, thank you for including me. Most of my team are office-based and it's stressful in there. I'm restructuring a few things and I want to do something for morale. Free meals, free childcare, or building a small gym they can use around the clock. Everyone says happy staff equals productive staff, and I've read the reports, but I've got no idea if I'm about to spend a load of money on something nobody actually uses. Lee!
Ask them.
Yes, that's probably a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't you say, sorry, just slightly off, I'm sure you told us a story about this company who were going to like increase salaries, and actually when they asked everyone, they said, I don't want to. No, it wasn't. It was Dr. Carey.
Equity share.
Yes, Dr. Carey Cooper, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was like the grand idea of kind of the partners to offer equity share. And when they talked about nobody wanted it, they wanted investment in either basic salary bonus or professional development, I think it was.
Yeah.
So
anyway, sorry, you were saying.
So yeah, I mean, I think you're always going to hear kind of negative conversations around things like gym memberships and fruit in the break room and ping pong tables and stuff like that. That's not to say that these things can't have a place in a well thought out well-being and wellness strategy, but they're kind of what we call hygiene factors, in that people will notice when they're taken away but won't necessarily appreciate them while they're there. And often kind of the gym can fall into that. And I think it's also what's the intention? Are you wanting to keep people on site even longer because they'll go to the gym after work and then maybe just pop upstairs to finish that email? Is it that you'd encourage them to do it at lunchtime, so then they're using up their own free time, like paid, in the work, when it should be used for doing something else? Or it could be that actually physical fitness is very, very important to the people that you have working with you, and they would absolutely adore to have free gym membership, whether that be a gym that you build yourself or elsewhere. I don't know the answer to that, but you're going to have to ask them. Things that you mentioned, though, that could be a lot more impactful as part of a well-being strategy, things like free childcare. That could be massive for carers who it's a huge cost and expense, isn't it? Couldn't free up a whole load of kind of worry having something like free childcare, particularly if it was on or near site. You say that people are in the office all the time. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there is a genuine reason for that. But is there some flexibility you can offer in that, again, in terms of people dealing with other demands and priorities in their life? That could be an absolute game changer and would have a massive boost to morale and well-being. And just, I think, to kind of say, happy staff equals productive staff. Yeah, but happiness is a really difficult metric for you to chase as a business owner, because happiness is a state, ebbs and flows, and there's lots of different things that are going to impact an individual's happiness and well-being that are beyond your control. So I'd be asking questions about what can we provide you to help you rest and recover better? What can we do to help you set better boundaries between work and life? What can we do to build in more flexibility? It could be free childcare and hybrid working. It could be free meals in a gym in the basement. It could be something else entirely. Do you remember we were talking about an organisation called Slate that introduced a cleaning stipend?
Yes.
So rather than a gym membership, you could use that same value against a cleaning service to come and clean your flat twice a week. It's things like that that can have a real impact because, again, you're giving somebody hours back. You're giving time back in terms of rest and recovery because that's not time they have to spend cleaning their house. So there's lots of different things that you can do. But, of course, none of that is going to make any impact whatsoever if you don't have manageable workloads, if you don't have supportive relationships, really great managers, a clear vision and mission for the organisation, people are paid fairly, they're developed in terms of their professional development and career development. All of that stuff is going to have a much bigger impact on the well-being and morale of your team than perks like this. So it has to be part of a bigger package. But ultimately, if you want the specifics, go and ask them. Nice.
And also, I think probably the way that I sort of teased this by saying, am I naive putting in a free gym? To be fair to the person who wrote in, they said there were 3 options: free meals, free childcare, or building a small gym. And so, yes, you can. But I think Leanne says the simplest way is to just start off and go, right, okay, so we're doing 3 this month. We're doing 3 vouchers for 3 particular services. So we're going to trial it for a couple of months. So you can either use a voucher for a gym, you can use a voucher for cleaning your house, or you can use a voucher for childcare, or perhaps the 4th option is, or you can give it to charity.
Definitely, and that's a good idea as well, isn't it? To test it and trial these things, or give people a flexibility. It's not that everyone has to get a free gym or everyone gets a cleaning stipend. Maybe they can choose which one they'd prefer.
Yes, absolutely. I think if anyone's putting anything like this together, just be careful that you're not skewing. Because if this person writing, let's say they love the gym and they're like, oh, the gym changed my life. Then if you're not careful, you start to sort of go, yeah, but and everyone else's life would be so much better if they just went to the gym. And it's like, it's not the same. Anyway, to question number 2. So work's gone quiet. How do I keep people motivated? So this person writes, my business goes through the occasional quiet patch and I always struggle with what to do. I don't want people sitting around feeling bored or worrying about the future, but I also don't want to reward a lack of work with extra time off or bonuses, which might accidentally send the wrong message. So what's the best way to keep a team motivated, engaged, and developing when there genuinely isn't enough work to keep everyone busy? Lee, thoughts?
What are your thoughts on this one?
I'd be looking at this and going, I think you're trying to solve the wrong problem to a certain extent. You're going, what do I do when it's quiet? You go, how do I bring in more interesting work so it's never quiet? That's the way I'd look at it, I think. Lee, give us a scientific version.
I don't think I have a scientific version. I agree. I think it's a commercial issue, isn't it? In terms of during that downtime, why is it there and what function is it serving? I remember reading about a company that has and it also depends on how your business works, that has their client projects are very intense but fairly short periods. So their typical client project will be 6 weeks, but it's intense, really, really intense. So they kind of look at their kind of working year in sprints. So they'll do 6 weeks of really intense work and then they'll give everyone 2 weeks off. So that you can always do things like that if that's kind of the structure of your business and how it works, where you've got more than enough business coming in, but this is just the nature of kind of whether it be seasonality or whatever else, that you have these quiet periods. Give that time back to the people to go and rest and recover. Maybe you go down to a 4-day work week. Maybe you look at, as you said, Al, other ways in terms of business development or continuous improvement, other things you can do operationally within the business to fill this time in a really productive way. So long as if you have your really busy period, if they're unsustainable, and thank goodness it's only a period of time, then trying to match that level of kind of productivity and performance expectations might be problematic in terms of the kind of well-being of your people and their morale and their overall engagement. So I think it depends on the nature of the business, and you haven't really told us much about that for us to for Al really to give you more advice on that. What I would say is if you just genuinely have these times where it's really quiet and you kind of your busy periods aren't that intense, I guess my question would be, well, how can you develop these people that they could potentially fill the time in productive ways in the future, or that you're investing in them in a way that is supporting their engagement for the future. It's kind of like, do you remember we looked at that research that looked at kind of during times of economic downturn, investing in employee engagement meant that when the economy recovered, organisations who had invested in people during that downtime recovered something like twice as fast, and their share price went up by 10% in the same period compared to competitors. So there is genuine research that shows that if you invest in people during a kind of a downtime, then you're going to get much more back in terms of their motivation engagement, which is what you're hoping to do. So that could be an option as well, to kind of set aside that time. And then also just making sure that people are taking all their annual leave. The number of business owners I speak to are looking to do something in wellbeing. And then I'll ask how many, what percentage of annual leave people are taking all of it. And they'll be like, I don't know, maybe 60, 70%. It's like, well, that's probably step one of your wellbeing strategy, isn't it? Is allowing people that recovery time. So make sure people are taking their holidays and encourage them to take it in the quiet periods. There's lots of different things you can do, but I think there's an element of, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as Al perfectly said at the beginning of this question, you're looking at ways to innovate and to fill the void and fill the time. Yeah, that's your job as an entrepreneur. Your team don't necessarily feel that drive, nor have the energy to give you that 365 days a year. So it might be you just see these kind of ebbs and flows as part of their rest and recovery time while keeping things ticking, maybe tightening up some processes, giving things a polish, rebuilding relationships with clients maybe they haven't spoke to for a little while. There's more kind of, I guess, quality-based activities you could be doing during that time than necessarily quantity.
Excellent. And I'm enjoying the two ways of looking at that. And I've come round to your way now. I think, yes, it would be a good idea to go out and try and find some extra work. But at the same time, yes, you're right. If it is very intensive work, then this sounds like a perfect way to retrain or reset. Love it. Love it. Okay, question number 3 is, this person writes, I'm recruiting at the moment. I'd really like to give someone a chance who might normally get overlooked. So the people I've mean are the people who've struggled to get into work, or maybe have got gaps in their CV, or faced barriers that have got nothing to do with how capable they are. It's not about hitting diversity targets or looking good. It just feels like the right thing to do. But what I'm wrestling with is whether good intentions are enough. I don't want to hire somebody and then realize my business isn't actually set up to give them the support they need. So how do you know when you're genuinely creating opportunity as opposed to setting someone up to fail? Lee, there's lots of gaps here, but what are you getting from this?
The first thing I'd say is good for you thinking about hiring candidates from backgrounds that are disadvantaged in various ways and giving people a chance. I quote this all the time, but Adam Grant in his book Hidden Potential makes a really excellent point that we're very good at assessing for levels of success and achievement. We're not very good at assessing level of difficulty in achieving that. So I think it's really nice that you're thinking like this and wanting to give these people a chance. There's a few things here that I need to kind of make very, very clear. First of all, it's not that you can just decide to hire somebody who has a big gap in their CV or maybe comes from a certain demographic background. You can't just decide to hire that person into your business without putting all candidates through a fair and objective recruitment process. That is called positive discrimination, and that is illegal in the UK and has been for some time. It's unlawful hiring, so you can't do that. What you can do is open up the job to various advertising places. So you might put it in, might go into schools or colleges or universities that are in more disadvantaged areas. You might put your job advert on lots of different websites that are going to attract very different people. In the example that you're using, so people who struggle to get into work, had gaps in their CV, look at whoever is currently delivering welfare to work contracts in your area. That's going to be people like G4S, CTEC, Ingeus. They're kind of the big players, but there's hundreds of providers that will be delivering contracts for DWP, Department of Work and Pensions in the UK, that are actively working with people who are struggling to get into work. They have entire teams that are just looking for employees exactly like you to help get there, get people into work. So definitely looking into different ways of, I guess, widening the stream of candidates that you have coming through your recruitment process. The final thing I'd say, and I worked in this area for a number of years, if somebody has been out of work for 12 months plus, it's not necessary that you're going to have to put in support mechanisms in your workplace necessarily, but what you are going to need is probably a good bit of patience and a lot of good faith, because being out of work for that long has a massive impact on mental health and confidence. It gets you out of a routine. It gets it hard to kind of get in that sleep pattern that is conducive to going to work for 8 hours a day and starting at 9 o'clock and making sure you're up in time to get the bus in the traffic at time of day you never normally travel. There's going to be lots of practical considerations that you're going to have to consider and give people some leeway with in those first few months. If they are late or they don't show up or they call in sick, it might be a confidence issue. There could be something else, kind of they're overstimulated or overwhelmed, because somebody who's been out of work for that long does experience social isolation and depression and anxiety at much higher levels. So it's probably going to require you to be a mentor, a coach, both things great leaders are and should be anyway. And it's going to have to take a pinch of good faith on your part to expect this person might make some mistakes in the first few months of their employment. But having these kind of regular check-in points, regular feedback sessions, and this mentorship relationship, I guess the only thing you might want to consider if they have been out of work for a while is, do they have money available for things like work clothes and their first months of bus fare? They're working with a welfare to work provider chance, so they'll be able to help. There are also lots of good organisations out there. I think it was Dress to Impress, the one that we used to partner with. So there are organisations out there. They might need a little advance. They might need a little bit of help with that first month until they get paid. They're probably the practical things. Rambling answer.
No, I think a lovely answer, and I think it's worth listening to Leanne on this because you work with people exactly like this. And in fact, I think that I employed a couple of them, and it was a little. Leanne had to coach me through the first sort of few weeks just to. I remember one guy, second day I think it was, and I was and I was showing him how to use a piece of software, and we were like, right, okay, so now you need to type into this, and as I'm talking, he's turned around, opened a packet of Twiglets, and went, "Do you want a Twiglet?" And I'm like, "I'm literally showing you how to do something quite important here."
Yeah, there's all these things that are just like kind of the etiquette, almost workplace etiquette isn't necessary there. And I think as well, it's sometimes that people who've been out of work for a long time, there's going to be other areas of their life that would have been impacted too, which is why the kind of programs that we worked on would solve all these things first. Then when they went into job, they're in the most stable position possible, whether it be finances, whether it be something to do with their kids, whether it be their physical health, their mental health. But then sometimes people sometimes slip back. I remember we worked with this incredible young man. I think he must have been about 19 or 20. Came from a very troubled background. I didn't have a very supportive family around him. He was very much judged for wanting to get a job. Who do you think you are? Type mindset. And he was in a job with Tesco, and he was doing really well for like 3 weeks. Like the manager was phoning and going, "Oh my God, he's amazing. I can't believe we found him. We're so pleased." And then like the beginning of his 4th week, we got a call from the manager saying, "I've had to let him go." We were like, "What? Why? We thought you were doing so well." He's like, "Yeah, he told me to fuck off this morning because I told him he was late." And I was like, yeah, it probably wasn't about you. Probably something's happened at home. So we managed to fix it, and he did go back. But it's things like that, like your Twiglets, like an outburst of anger that it's going to happen. Particularly if they've been unemployed for a while, there's likely to be other things happening in their life that might just trigger them on certain days.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you do have a question for the workplace surgery, just make sure you send it in the next week or so, because over the August, I'm not sure we'll be doing them over August.
No, we won't be. It'll be our last This Week in Work next Tuesday, won't it?
Oh, yes, it will. It will. So probably don't bother, actually. No, send them in because
you can do if you've got a pressing question.
Yes, and we can also use them after in September. Talking of future, this Thursday we're joined by former Chief People Officer Tom Emery, who explains exactly why most HR leaders never get a real seat at the table. And he also tells us exactly how to change that. This isn't some fancy talking consultant who's read a couple of books. Tom has been there. He's done it with lots of household names, including HSBC and many, many others. So he really knows what he's talking about. It's going to be a good one. Lee, anything to add before we go?
Just the usual, head over to LinkedIn, follow us there. That's where the conversation continues. Do feel free to send me any news stories you see or posts or research. I do appreciate it. It makes my job a lot easier if I've got a bank of things to just pull out when we talk about these things. Continue to leave your comments, your reviews. We do appreciate it. And to the lovely person that left a review about the theme tune music, we hear you. We're testing it. Tell us, everyone else listening, should we keep it or should we drop it in these roundup? We will listen to you. We will.
Do. Unless she's talking about the beginning. Oh my goodness, we've got 2 variables to test. Right, I will go and think about that now. We will speak to you soon. Bye. Bye-bye.